Ever imagine yourself in Kuwait,
The aroma of your signature dish drifting out onto a bustling street.
filled with hungry customers? It's a delicious dream, right?
But before you even fire up that kitchen,
There's a critical ingredient we need to add to the mix.
navigating the ins and outs of Kuwaiti restaurant regulations.
Oh, absolutely.
It can feel like a recipe with a few too many steps.
Don't worry, we're here to break it down.
So you can conquer those cravings
Right.
legally.
Right.
We've done a deep dive into this comprehensive guide.
To starting a restaurant in Kuwait, and trust me,
It's packed with details you wouldn't want to miss.
it really is,
What's fascinating is how deeply intertwined the process is.
with various government bodies.
Okay.
You're dealing with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry,
The Ministry of Health, the Kuwait
and
Municipality,
even the fire department. Wow.
they all have a seat at the table.
Ensuring every aspect of your restaurant
From food safety to building codes.
meets their standards.
Okay, that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
So it sounds like overlooking these regulations.
This is just a minor misstep?
Right.
What are we talking about here?
Potential parking tickets or something more serious?
Oh, it's definitely more than a parking ticket.
Ignoring these regulations could mean some pretty hefty fines.
In some cases, your license could even be revoked
Bringing your restaurant dreams to a screeching halt.
before they even really begin.
Wow. Okay.
So not messing around then.
It's serious business.
Exactly.
Think of these regulations as essential ingredients.
For long-term success.
Okay.
Each permit serves a specific purpose.
For example, that commercial license isn't just a piece of paper.
It's your golden ticket to even begin construction.
Without it, you can't even think about laying the first brick,
Right, so it's about building a solid foundation from the ground up.
legally speaking.
Exactly.
Then you have your health and safety permits.
Now, this is where they really zoom in,
On every detail of your kitchen setup,
making sure you're complying.
with their stringent food safety standards,
Right.
they're looking at everything.
From food storage and handling to ventilation.
Kuwait takes food safety seriously.
And for a good reason.
They want customers to savor every bite.
Knowing it's prepared to the highest standards.
It's like that old saying.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Speaking of prevention,
What about environmental permits?
what's their role in all of this?
Those are all about ensuring your restaurant operates.
Sustainably and responsibly.
Oh.
We're talking waste management, water usage, even noise control,
The guide had some particularly interesting details about soundproofing.
especially for restaurants in residential areas.
Apparently, decibel levels are taken very seriously.
Wow, I had no idea noise pollution was such a factor
That's not something you typically think about,
when picturing a bustling restaurant.
right?
So it's more than just serving up amazing food.
It's about being a good neighbor, too.
Precisely.
And we haven't even gotten to the municipality approvals yet.
They're the ones who'll scrutinize your building plans,
Ensuring you meet all those important safety codes.
fire regulations, and accessibility requirements.
It's a thorough process, no doubt.
So it sounds like we've got a whole symphony.
Of permits and approvals to orchestrate, before even dreaming of that grand opening.
It's a lot to digest, but you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Let's say someone, hypothetically of course,
Is feeling a little overwhelmed by this point.
where do they even begin to tackle this mountain?
Of paperwork and processes.
Don't worry about that.
That's where the guide we're diving into.
Really shines.
Okay.
It lays out a clear roadmap
A step-by-step process.
to navigate this legal maze.
Okay, good.
Because I'm already feeling a bit lost in the sauce.
And we're just talking about it.
Right.
Well, imagine it like this.
The first step is gathering your ingredients.
Okay.
You'll need those passport copies.
A solid lease agreement for your restaurant location and a detailed business plan.
That outlines your
Your
concept,
target.
your projected financials.
The works.
So they want
They want to see that you're not just winging it.
you've really thought this through.
Absolutely.
And then comes the application process itself.
Okay.
You'll be submitting these documents,
To the Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
who will review everything with a fine-tooth comb.
And I'm guessing this isn't exactly...
A quick trip to the corner store, right?
We're talking
Yeah.
some serious waiting time.
You're right.
Patience is definitely key here,
Even the commercial license
which is your starting point.
can take a good 2-4 weeks to process.
Okay, so realistically,
Anyone looking to open a restaurant in Kuwait,
needs to factor in this waiting period.
it's not something you can just whip up overnight.
Exactly.
But here's a pro tip from the guide.
Organization and early submissions.
Are your secret weapons.
Okay.
If you're on top of your paperwork
and submit everything well in advance,
Right.
it can certainly help streamline the process.
Right, like prepping your ingredients.
Before you even start cooking.
It makes everything smoother and less stressful in the long run.
Right.
Now, what about those dreamers out there?
Who want to add a little something extra
To their restaurant experience.
Yeah.
I'm talking about things like
Serving alcohol.
or having those charming outdoor seating areas.
Those seem like they could add a whole other layer of complexity.
You're absolutely right.
Those special considerations come
With their own set of unique challenges and regulations.
Take alcohol, for example, in Kuwait.
There are specific cultural and legal sensitivities
Surrounding its sale and consumption.
Right. It's not as simple as just
adding a cocktail menu and calling it a day.
not at all.
Obtaining an alcohol license is a whole other process.
You'll need to demonstrate.
That you'll be adhering to strict regulations regarding who you can serve to.
At what times?
And even where alcohol can be consumed.
Within your establishment. It's a delicate balance.
And the guide emphasizes the importance
of understanding the cultural context.
It's a good reminder that opening a restaurant
isn't just about importing your culinary vision.
It's also about respecting and adapting
to local customs and regulations.
Just like
and that same principle applies.
Outdoor seating as well.
Okay.
You might think it's as simple as
putting out a few tables and chairs.
But Kuwait has specific guidelines
for utilizing public space.
Oh, I bet.
Everything from sidewalk access
to noise control probably comes into play.
Yeah.
The guide actually goes into surprising detail
about the regulations surrounding outdoor seating areas.
You'll need to consider things like space allocation to ensure pedestrian walkways are clear.
Noise control to avoid disturbing residents.
Especially in the evenings.
Right.
And even seasonal considerations.
Since outdoor seating is a lot more enjoyable.
During those cooler months.
Wow.
Yeah. So even something as seemingly simple
as enjoying a meal al fresco
involves navigating a whole set of regulations.
Oh, no.
What about those mobile culinary entrepreneurs?
Food trucks are all the rage these days.
Yeah.
But I imagine they face their own set of hurdles in Kuwait.
Absolutely.
In fact, the guide has a whole section dedicated
to what they call mobile unit licensing.
And don't think just because you're on wheels,
you can bypass the rules. If anything, the regulations for food trucks
can sometimes feel even stricter.
That makes sense, though.
I mean, you're essentially a moving kitchen.
So food safety and hygiene are paramount.
Exactly.
You'll need specific permits.
Designated routes and locations.
Where you're allowed to operate.
Okay.
And, of course, you'll be subject
to the same rigorous health and safety inspections
as any brick-and-mortar restaurant.
So whether you're serving up gourmet burgers
from a stationary location
or the best falafel wraps on wheels,
right?
Compliance isn't optional.
It's a fundamental ingredient for success.
In Kuwait's culinary scene.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And speaking of success,
securing those permits and licenses
is really just the first course in this culinary adventure.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this.
So we've prepped our ingredients,
navigated the application process,
and even added a few special considerations to the mix.
What comes next?
It's like we've just finished the appetizer.
The real feast of running a successful restaurant is about to begin.
Precisely.
It's like any good chef will tell you.
Consistency is key.
Right.
Securing those permits is a major milestone.
But the journey doesn't end there.
Right.
In fact,
this is where the long game begins.
Okay.
Maintaining compliance and
staying ahead of the curve.
Right, because regulations
aren't exactly known for staying static, are they?
That's true.
Things change.
New rules pop up.
And suddenly you're playing catch up.
Right.
So how does a busy restaurant owner even keep track of everything?
Well,
that's where a little proactive
goes a long way.
Okay.
The guide emphasizes the importance
of regular check-ins
with those government websites and resources we talked about earlier.
Okay.
The Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
The Ministry of Health.
They often announce updates or changes to regulations online.
So it's like subscribing to their culinary newsletter.
But instead of new recipes,
it's new rules.
Right.
Not quite as delicious.
But definitely just as important.
Exactly.
And here's another thing the guide stressed.
License renewals.
Oh.
Those hard-earned permits you fought for.
They're not a one-and-done deal.
Okay.
Many of them need to be renewed.
Annually or biannually?
See, this is where I'd be scrambling at the last minute.
Frantically trying to remember deadlines.
Oh, we talking another mountain of paperwork?
Or has Kuwait embraced the digital age in that respect?
Well, you're in luck.
Kuwait's actually been making strides
towards digital governance.
And many license renewals can now be done entirely online.
Okay, that's a relief.
No need to camp out at government offices with a stack of forms.
But even with online renewals,
I imagine it's easy to let deadlines slip through the cracks.
when you're busy running a restaurant.
Sure.
Any tips on how to stay organized on that front?
Absolutely.
This is where good old-fashioned calendar reminders
Or even setting up alerts in your business management software.
can be lifesavers.
Okay.
The guide even suggested designating someone on your team
Maybe a manager.
or even an administrative staff member.
To be the point person for tracking these deadlines.
Having a dedicated compliance guru on staff, I like it.
It's like having a sous chef for all things legal.
Exactly.
And speaking of your team,
The guide also highlighted something I found quite interesting.
Okay.
The importance of staff training.
when it comes to maintaining compliance,
Oh, that makes sense.
it's one thing for the owner to know all the ins and outs.
Of the regulations.
But if your staff isn't on the same page,
Right.
it could create some messy situations, literally.
Exactly.
Imagine a health inspector shows up.
And your staff is completely caught off guard,
Uh-oh.
unsure of proper food handling procedures.
Or storage temperatures.
It wouldn't exactly inspire confidence.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
So investing in staff training isn't just about,
Improving their culinary skills.
Right.
It's also about creating a culture of compliance.
from the kitchen to the dining room.
Precisely.
A well-trained team becomes an asset
Ensuring smooth inspection.
and upholding the reputation of your restaurant. And speaking of building a good reputation.
There's one final ingredient we need to add to this mix.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
What's the secret sauce for building a stellar reputation?
With the powers that be in Kuwait.
It's surprisingly simple.
Okay.
Relationships.
I'm
Building strong, respectful relationships.
Full of local authority
From health inspectors to municipality officials.
can be invaluable.
So it's not just about following the letter of the law.
But also the spirit of it.
Building those personal connections can make all the difference.
Exactly.
And the guide offered some practical tips.
For nurturing those relationships.
Okay.
Regular visits.
Even just a friendly hello and a quick chat.
Right.
Demonstrating your commitment to compliance.
And maintaining a professional demeanor.
These seemingly small gestures can go a long way.
It's like that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, right?
Building those bridges of communication can make navigating...
Those inevitable bumps in the road a whole lot smoother.
Absolutely.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone.
The guide actually suggested consulting.
With legal experts specializing in Kuwaiti law.
Okay.
Especially if you're feeling overwhelmed by the complexities of the process.
Think of it as bringing in a culinary consultant.
To help you perfect that signature dish.
It's like having a secret ingredient.
For navigating the legal landscape.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Into the world of opening a restaurant in Kuwait.
it's clear that while the process is undoubtedly intricate,
It's far from insurmountable.
with careful planning, a healthy dose of patience,
And a commitment to compliance.
that dream of sharing your culinary passion with Kuwait.
Can become a delicious reality.
Until next time, happy cooking.